As actors, we get to rely on scripts to tell us what to do.
Like when to slap someone across the face and when to let someone slap you.
But we don't need a script to tell us to help someone in need.
The SAG Foundation was founded to do just that, to help performers with life's unscripted moments and to give back to our communities.
Over the past decade, the SAG Foundation has given millions in financial and medical assistance to SAG-AFTRA performers and their families.
Last year, more than 25,000 union performers attended over 500 SAG Foundation Q&As, seminars, and workshops.
And SAG Foundation Book Pals read to over 60,000 children in schools every month nationwide.
Do you know how much SAG-AFTRA members pay for all these resources and programs? Zero.
Zero.
Zilch.
Nada.
Do you know how much of our union dues go to the SAG Foundation? Zero.
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 The SAG Foundation is a nonprofit that relies solely on donations, so it is vital that those who are able to help give what they can.
And you've been giving since the SAG Foundation was founded in 1985.
I love 1985.
Out of Africa.
The Color Purple.
The Goonies.
The Cosby Show.
Family Ties.
The Golden Girls.
What?
So many truly fantastic performances since then.
We have a wonderful history and a beautiful tradition of being there for one another. If you need help, it's here for you.
And if you can help, please give.
Like every great production, we are at our best when we all act
Together.
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 So please, act now.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Baker. I'm the Life Raft program here. I'm program director here at the SAG Foundation. Welcome to the SAG Foundation's panel, Actors Living and Thriving in the Local Markets. Before we get started, I want to remind you, you can email your questions to livestream@sagfoundation.org. And you also can tweet your questions using the hashtag SAGF. Again, that's hashtag SAGF, and we will get to those questions throughout this evening. Thank you for viewing again. We're excited. This is the first time we're doing a live stream only event. Thank you to all the panelists, and thank you for viewing. Let's get started. Go ahead. We're going to start with Chelsea. Chelsea, introduce yourself, and then a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go around the panel, and every panelist will do so.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Bruland. I am an actress living in New Orleans, Louisiana. Did you want me to go into how I... So I'm obviously Australian. I grew up in Adelaide, Australia, and then moved to Melbourne and started off as a child actor in Australia. I did a few feature films and a couple of TV series, The Adventures of Chuck Finn and McLeod's Daughters, that went for a few years each in Australia. And then kind of branched out into producing TV commercials and then onto stunt work. And it was about in my mid-20s I wanted to live and work overseas. So I made the move to Hollywood, because that's the only place we know when you want to work in the movies. So I lived in Los Angeles for about a year and had a really tough run of it. I moved in 2009. It was in the global financial crisis. A lot of productions were tightening up their purse strings, and I basically worked as an extra trying to join the union for a year. And so I was working as a non-union extra at $64 a day, put in my hard yards there, and as soon as I got my 3 little gold tickets, and became SAG eligible, I joined the union and had met someone who had said, if I were you in my career right now, I would be living in New Orleans, because I was pursuing stunt work as well. I have 2 sides of my career. And so I came down to New Orleans, and within 24 hours of arriving here, I was like, that's where I'm going to go. And I moved, went back to LA, packed up my car, drove down. So in the beginning of 2010, I was here for 2 weeks, and the Saints won the Super Bowl that year. And then it went on to Mardi Gras and Jazz Fest, and this city is just so lively and full of culture. And I, just fell head over heels in love with this city. And they call it Hollywood South down here. There's, big tax incentive and a lot of work going on. And I'm happy to say that, I'm thriving happily down here in my local community.
Great, Chelsea. Thank you for being on our panel. We're going to go next to David. David, introduce yourself and a little bit about your career and where you're at right now.
His mic's off.
Go ahead and unmute yourself, David.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Go ahead.
My name is David House. I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I've been living in New Mexico for over 20 years now. I'm originally from Detroit. And I came to New Mexico not having anything to do with acting. I'd never done any acting before. Started out trying to do a little bit of modeling here. And at the time, my agent kept saying, you need to go to some auditions. You need to go to some auditions. And at the time, I was kind of like, for what? And I finally went and started doing a couple of commercials. I got a couple of national commercials. Through that, kind of fell in love with the process and fell into, at one point, I was doing some, I can say that I never ended up doing any extra work. That never ended up happening for me. I've been very, very lucky, knock on wood. And eventually, about almost 7 years ago, I got involved with a little show called Breaking Bad. And I ended up doing 2 seasons as the oncologist for Walter White. And it just haven't looked back, and have just fallen in love with the whole process. New Mexico has been really, really wonderful to me. And I'm really, really appreciative of I mean, in general, I mean, you know, Chelsea, you're talking about how much you love New Orleans. Man, or Casey, I'm sorry, is it Casey?
Chelsea.
No, it's Chelsea.
Chelsea,
Yeah.
it is Chelsea, sorry. Being in New Mexico, and especially coming from a place like Detroit, a big metropolitan area, it's the beauty of the state and how diverse the culture is here that keeps me here. And then now with what's been going on with the movies and TV shows that have been coming to New Mexico, it's just a wonderful opportunity for me. So I'm loving it.
Great, David. Thank you, and thanks for being on our panel. Let's now go to Rick. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Rick, and your career.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rick Reitz. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm originally from Rochester, New York, and then lived in New York City for a number of years, then went back and forth between Los Angeles and New York. I actually maintain residences still in New York, Los Angeles, but now make my home in Atlanta, as I say. I met in New York the young lady that would become my bride, and she was transferred here many, many years ago, and so I followed her down here. But I still stay on the move. She worked for the airline, so that made it a little convenient for me to sort of play 3 coasts, if you would. And life has been pretty good. Got here in the late 80s, worked all the different markets, and then things started to blossom in Georgia. That was pre-credits, and then there's been a big boom, of course, since that time, as a number of states have gotten competitive with credits, Atlanta being one of those. But really enjoy the city, enjoy the life here, but I don't know that one can say that you're just a local actor or a regional actor. We're all national actors. We happen to live in a particular location. And what I found is, even living in Atlanta, I certainly play all 11 southeastern states and still play New York and California. So maybe I'm just a little bit lucky.
Great. Thank you, Eric, for joining us as well. And last but not least, Ted, how about you?
Hey, good evening. I'm Ted Rooney. And am I lit up now? Am I on camera?
You're good to go, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm from Portland, Oregon. I got my MFA on the East Coast, and I moved to New York. For about 6 years, I lived there looking for an opportunity to get back to the West Coast. I did a basketball movie, which enabled me to meet a casting director who set me up with a couple meetings in Los Angeles with mid-sized agencies who promptly said that I was that they don't start careers for 35-year-old character actors, which I was glad for that honesty. I promptly signed up for a pay-per-view, I call them, and met an agent, Michael Green, who signed me and started sending me out right away. And I immediately basically had a career, reached my first goal of getting on Seinfeld before it went off the air that year. It was 97, I think. And got a couple guest star parts. And basically from then on, 50% commercial work, 50% television. I got, my goal was basically a gig a month, and was able to have a middle-class lifestyle there. And kind of the reason moving out there was to have a more of a settled lifestyle. My goal moving out there was to, my mission statement was that film and television in Los Angeles would support my theater habit. Knowing that potentially I wouldn't get a lot of work, but I would get some work, enough to make a living on, but artistic satisfaction, that onus I placed on theater. And so I was always in a play. Had a great life there. Met my wife, who's from the South and very community, small town kind of personality. She managed to live 2 years there before turning to me and saying, can we live not here? Can we live elsewhere? And I suggest my hometown, which she loves. So we drove up the 5 to Portland, Oregon, and tried to settle here. Initially, I was looking over my shoulder at the work and spending a lot of time in Los Angeles, flying down, going back and forth. We got, in the interim, 1 child. And eventually, with our second on the way, we had to have that conversation that Michael O'Neill talked about in that famous LA Times article. Our conversation wasn't, do we move out of LA now and try something else because of the shrinking market and because of the scale plus 10 norm. But our conversation was, do we pull up our roots in Los Angeles and vie for the community that we moved up here for? And with Betty on the way, we decided that's what we were going to do. And at that point, then now I can no longer make a living as a full-time living as a on-camera actor. I had to scramble, and my scrambling led to one of my heart's desire, which is teaching. So now I part-time act and part-time teach on-camera acting. There just isn't enough work up here for even somebody with my experience to make a full-time living with on-camera work. A lot of non-union, and so that's our situation here. I'm pleased as punch, though, to be here, living in my hometown with my wife and family.
Thank you, Ted, and thank you again, everyone, for being here. We're going to jump right into it. We'll start with David, and then anybody else who wants to jump in. Can you, in that market of New Mexico, maybe explain the areas of industry, again, area of industries meaning film, television, commercial, stage, voiceover, whatever an actor's work may be. What's kind of mainly being done in that area, in those fields? What is there one that kind of rises to the top, or 2 or 3 that seem to be prevalent?
Well, there are several TV series that are being filmed in New Mexico right now, and there are movies that are coming and going all the time. Those would be the big things, as far as my knowledge is concerned. As far as voiceover is concerned, not so much. That, like I said, film and TV is probably just about it. Those are the things where if you're thinking about really trying to make a go of it, make a living, that would be it. I mean, I've done some voiceover work before. I used to work in radio for quite a while, and when I was trying to do voiceover work, the market seemed to be locked up by about 2 or 3 different people. Albuquerque's not that big. So there were just a few people that had, were doing that sort of work. And especially these days, there's so much, with Voice 123 and I think Voice Bunny, and there's some others out there, voices.com, you can get work as a voiceover person, seemingly from wherever you are in the country. So local voiceover work, I don't think really happens so much. We have the Albuquerque studios here in Albuquerque, which are really beautiful facilities just south of town. And those seem to be fairly busy. Those stay busy. They filmed Breaking Bad there. I think there's a new TV series that's getting ready to start called Hieroglyph, which is going to be on Fox, I believe. And they've committed to a year. So they've rented out 3 sound stages at that facility. As far as TV is concerned, I know they're filming Better Call Saul, which is the follow-up show. I believe it's the prequel to Breaking Bad. And Longmire is going into its 3rd season. That's filmed in New Mexico and filmed primarily, from what I understand, up in Santa Fe and Las Vegas, which is about an hour, and then about 2 hours north of Albuquerque. So.
In New Orleans, there is predominantly feature films. There is a little bit of television. There's a handful of TV series being filmed here. American Horror Story has just been picked up for a 2nd season down here. NCIS New Orleans is just starting up. Salem was just filmed up in Shreveport, which is northern Louisiana. But you know, aside from those handful of TV series, there's a lot of features that are predominantly here. There's the occasional TV commercial that I see come down here, but I'd say the majority of our market down here is feature films.
Georgia is an interesting and evolving market. Ever since 2008, when our tax incentive program really went full flush. We now currently have, as of the report last week, we have 29 series and films going simultaneously here, and they're all those are the union projects. I'm not even mentioning the non-union. That's the great news, because this happens to be a right-to-work state, so we always have to sort of wrestle with that a little bit. But the bulk of the premium work is union, I'm happy to say. Like I said, we've got a number of series. You probably recognize a lot of them, like Walking Dead, Vampire Diaries, the originals, a spinoff with that. We've got *Halt and Catch Fire*, which is working right now. *Drop Dead Diva* just wrapped, and so on and so forth. We're probably an even split between television and film right now. We have a robust voiceover market, and actually have had a robust corporate market for a long time, because Georgia being the capital of the New South, we have a lot of the Fortune 100, Fortune 500 media companies and corporations that like to employ us and sort of stay regional. ISDN has sort of invaded the turf in voiceover. You're seeing now with the expression of people auditioning with videotape, you're seeing sort of that movement away from being just one particular regional hotspot. More people get involved on a regional or national basis in coming to Georgia. We are a state that doesn't have any resident requirement. So people are coming in from Los Angeles and New York and working here, and we're happy to have them.
Portland, Oregon, by comparison, is a very, very small market, I would have to say. We've been fortunate to get some incentive and through the financial kind of crisis to hang on to it, and that's been good for us. We have Grimm TV show, Portlandia, a new a show from the producers of Leverage, which ended, is The Librarian. So those three TV shows are what we got. And the occasional film, meaning a couple of movies a year that I am aware of. They shot Wild with Reese Witherspoon in the fall, and a small indie movie, COG, a David Sedaris movie. I just auditioned for Brothers-in-Law, Lorne Michael movie coming here. So a couple movies a year, those three TV shows. Commercials, I have not shot a commercial since I've lived here because I'm a union actor, and most of that work is non-union. A lot of non-union work. There's a great thriving creative community here. So there's a lot of indie, smaller, low budget, ultra low kind of stuff happening, which I'm participating in. And there's a movement towards creating Portland as a creative hub where we're creating our own work at the union level. So that's what we're hoping for, growth in, but also the incentives we hope down the line continue to grow and invite programs here.
Great. The next question I have for you guys is, what percentage of your auditions do you think, and roughly obviously, is in-person versus self-tape?
Well, I can tell you in Atlanta, first generation of auditions is going to be almost 100% on tape these days. It is a great luxury to see people in person. I think everyone on this panel will agree. Getting in the room with the producers and directors, even the CDs, is the ultimate goal. But that's not happening so much with the younger generation. What I'm starting to see is, I would say 80 to 85% of the auditions are on tape and may even book off the tape. When you get into the room, directors are generally over 35, 40 years old, maybe a little bit old school in that thinking, but those people are used to doing it the way the business has always been done, face to face. New generation grew up on technology, so they're utilizing that technology. It's on our iPhones, it's on your iPad. We Skype now. I mean, we're using Zoom here tonight, and you're starting to see all the advantages of doing it electronically. But still, I'd love to see a trend go back to being in the room, but those may be days long gone. Like I said before, it's sort of following the ISDN trail, and voiceover and radio is everybody's in play all the time.
Well, I'm going to, personally for me, I have not started yet doing video auditions. My goal is to start doing that very soon, like within the next year, the next couple months maybe. I know people who are doing it and booking from that. I had a really kind of nice conversation with a couple of guys I worked with last year on a film, and they actually moved. One moved from LA, the other one moved here from New York, and I guess, I don't know whether or not, I think they both were actually from New Mexico, so they moved back. And one lives in Santa Fe, the other lives in Taos, and they're booking stuff and then flying all over the world doing stuff at this point. So it's very viable. As far as percentages, my sense is that, I mean, in New Mexico, we still do a lot of in-person casting. The casting directors want to see us. It's such a small market here that that we get to know the casting directors personally, and that, you know, as you were saying, Rick, it's like I think it makes a big difference. You know, there's 3 or 4 casting directors that that I have worked with, and they're all wonderful. And so they know me, they know my work, and they'll call my agent and say, you know, let's bring David in for X. And so that's really to my advantage. I do want to branch out and start doing other auditioning in other markets. And so that's the big advantage to doing that.
I'd say for me personally, I have probably about 70% self-taped auditions and 30% live. As David was saying, New Orleans is a very small market as well. There's probably about, I'd guess, 7 casting directors who cast locally. So you tend to get a very good relationship with them. And if an audition invite will always go out, and if I can make it and I'm available to go, absolutely, 100% try and get in the door. If I get an audition invite and it's over like a 3-hour drive away, if I'm free to go do it, I will. But often, you know, if it's in Atlanta, for an example, I will often just videotape, self-tape a first round audition. And if I get a call back, 100% get on a plane, get in my car, whatever I need to get there for a call back.
Is that me?
Yeah, go ahead, Ted.
Yes, okay. Let's see. I audition for anything I'm right for locally. It's a very small market. There's one large casting company, a mid-size, and a couple small ones. They all know me. Everybody knows everybody in town. And so when I'm right for something at the higher level or at the union level, I audition for it. I've done all the shows that are in town, and meaning as I've done guest spots on Grimm, Portlandia, The Librarian, Leverage, and I usually audition for the films that come to town. But those are all, you know, few and far between. So for me, it's about an audition every 4 months. And as far as tape goes, that was a part of the conversation when we decided to stay here, is to tell my agent, it's tape only now, my friend. And he's, well, my friend, they're pretty old school still in Los Angeles, and they're hesitant. They'd rather have you in the room. To be an interesting story is not interesting. Oh, he's in Portland, how interesting. That's the message I'm getting from my agent, but I don't know. The feeling is it's the changing of the guard is happening a lot slower in Los Angeles, and where, you know, there's a ton of great actors that are in line in front of me, and so why would they look at tape for Ted Rooney? I have, however, booked a couple gigs. I did a couple episodes of Boardwalk Empire thanks to tape, and a movie, a Disney movie shot up in Canada thanks to tape. And this is after having the conversation, so whew. But I don't tape a lot. I'm good at it. I know how to. I have my little studio here. I tape a lot of other actors who are going for that, finding that stuff online, the stuff that's seeing tapes all over the United States, and so I'm taping things for them.
I'd like to add, Dennis, if I could, the fact that the trend is being set. The reason it's being set regionally first. I believe it was David who started to say the people in Los Angeles do like seeing you in person. Same in New York, and I think that's great. I wish we had more of it in the regions. When you're not in the box, we had to start to think out of the box. Atlanta is pretty central to the southeastern region. Geographically, it's 7 hours to New Orleans, it's 7 hours to Orlando, it's 7 hours to Wilmington, North Carolina, it's 4 hours to Nashville. So we've become sort of central, and as Chelsea was beginning to say, sometimes you have to pop up and you got to go. hard to believe. I maintain a place in Burbank for a long time, and everybody knows what a crosstown trip is. If you have you live in Burbank, you got to be in Santa Monica during rush hour. You've got to plan way in advance. It's a similar scenario, only with greater distances, by the way, here. It's not unusual to drive an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, even 7 hours each way to do a regional audition if it comes to that callback. And because of those great distances, everything matriculated to the video first. That doesn't mean it's right. It just means it happened here first.
Great, thank you for that. For those who are self-taping on a regular basis, what are some tips? What equipment are you using? Things like that you can maybe help actors out who are trying to do more of it.
Good microphone is huge. Really nice sounding voice can really affect the people seeing the tape. Plain background, nice lighting, and a good digital camera, but that microphone to me is a huge factor.
I think he's right. Most of the cameras come with their own condenser microphones. So what you want to do is you want to detach from that and have some sort of directional mic capability. You can even use a lapel mic if you have to. But you want to bring your presence in so that you can be a little more subtle in your performance. You'll see here I'm actually sitting in my studio, and it's a home studio that I've had to evolve over the years. But you buy packages of lights. You can get them wholesale from B&H. You work your color temperatures of the lights. Not a bad idea to be familiar with television filmmaking 101, so you have a sense of technology. You go with a neutral background. There are any number of colors, as people have said, that are conducive to great skin tone, seeing your eyes, of course, with great lighting. Sound, as Ted has said, is particularly important. And then you have to think about how you're going to compress it. It's important to know, once you've gotten it into the camera, how you export it into your laptop, compress it into a reasonable size, and can deliver it without losing a lot of quality.
Chelsea, do you find yourself auditioning using your laptop in a pinch, or maybe your iPad if you absolutely have to, or is that not so much?
I have certainly auditioned using my iPhone in a pinch, but I also have a little mini tripod set up for my iPhone. But yeah, I definitely, and I travel with them all the time. My 3 things I always use are I've got just, a little consumer HD camera. A tripod is so important. Otherwise you find yourself in hotel rooms balancing them on, you kind of makeshift things to try and get the camera up to the right level. And I've also got a lighting kit that I bought off of Amazon for like $125 dollars. It's what I'm using at the moment. I've got 2 soft boxes on either side. They're super compact, they pack down, I can carry everything in kind of, one big zip bag. And I can't tell you how many auditions I've had to do from hotel rooms while working on other jobs. So yet another very positive thing about, being able to do video auditions is if I'm physically not able to go to the casting session that day because I'm working, I can do it that evening in the hotel room. But yes, I certainly have used my iPhone in a pinch. And then just getting a reader is often hard because I hate seeing auditions when someone's reading off of Skype and you can hear that echo sound, or, they've clearly self-recorded themselves and put it in the corner. It's like having an actual person to read, even if they're not an actor. I've gone down to the hotel bar before, gotten someone to quickly just read some lines with me.
Great. Rick, how do you handle not getting a reader, not having a reader? Do you always have a reader? How do you work that out?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to address that. And by the way, Chelsea, here's a quick tip. The threading of a prosumer camera on the bottom actually matches the 1/4-inch screw on any lamp in your hotel room, and you have an instant tripod, whether it's tabletop or a floor-supported mount. You can screw it right in. It is the identical size. I've had to do it.
I love it. That's great.
It's kind of crazy. When you talked about getting readers, yes. My wife will sometimes read with me. She's got some background in history. I usually have several scene partners that I work with on a very regular basis. I have one particular gentleman, Wilbur Fitzgerald, who's a very close friend, and we tend to work together. What we've seen is a lot of pairing of partners in the regional market like that. You get teams, 2, 3, 4 people, and you end up reading off each other finding a space, sharing the cost, another way to get around the cost. And then you don't have to schedule yourself into someone else's studio. But Chelsea's absolutely right. You find yourself on the road. Sometimes you're finding yourself on the road with professionals. You're doing a gig. Then you grab one of those people, you buy them a beer or a hamburger and say, read with me, and that's how it goes. Otherwise, it's tough. You don't want to read into negative space and read yourself.
Great, great. Because of the self-taping, does it expand potential projects you can audition for? Obviously outside, but has that increased your auditions so much that you've noticed significantly? We'll go with Ted first, or
You want to grab that?
Auditioning, yeah, I've gotten, like I said, I did end up on Boardwalk Empire on the other coast out of Portland, Oregon. I was up for Abraham Lincoln history thing on the East Coast, just about to fly out to do a screen test, and they went with a name, but that was all video. I met with the director for 1 hour on Skype and talked with him and read with him, and sent like 2 rounds of auditions taped. And it was all just me, you know, I'm embarrassed to say it was just me, myself, and I the whole time. But that's what I went with. And now I'm hearing you guys, I should be grabbing some friends and doing this with me. But I do tend to, I'm an isolationist. I tend to work alone.
Then how do you do, that's a great point, Ted. Then how do you do that? Do you record yourself with the other lines? How do you make that work?
This sounds so unprofessional, but yeah, I do that. I tend to work more freely when I'm alone. And so I want to get my best work out there. But if I found the right person, and I think it's more because I'm an introvert, I would find the right person. Of course, there's some great readers here in Portland. I need to do that. Thank you for that.
Thank
you, Rick.
No problem. Because of self-taping is used more and more, do you think that maybe allows an actor to stay in their local market a little longer before they think they need to make that move to LA or New York for their next level of their career? What are your thoughts? David, we'll start with David and anybody else who has thoughts on that.
Well, like I said, I haven't actually started that process yet, but I would think that would be the case. I'm probably not the best person to address this one yet. I do have to say that I have like most of the pieces put together. I just got to go ahead and start doing it. The hardware to start self-taping. But again, I'm probably not the best person to answer that question at this moment.
Okay. Anybody else's thoughts on that?
I think there are so many wonderful opportunities within the local market that, you know, there may be a certain point in someone's career where they might need to make the move to New York or Los Angeles, primarily to make the connections with casting directors and agents there. Because, you know, the casting directors there may not necessarily call you in or, you know, invite you to audition for those bigger roles. But, I mean, certainly, I mean, I've had a wonderful opportunity here where it was a small role. It was, you know, a couple scenes, but I was in a scene with, you know, Mark Wahlberg, and that's a great little showreel piece back and forth. And there is just so many great projects being filmed down here that no matter what size of the role, there's so many wonderful opportunities. I still think, I mean, particularly in this market down here, they're always going to pull the leads out of Los Angeles. You know, 1 through 5, 1 through 10, whoever it is, the producers have always budgeted for that. So, you know, you may be able to sneak around the back and knock their socks off and take one of those roles, but, you know, definitely they always plan on budgeting the, you know, for the bigger films anyway, the lead roles out of Los Angeles. They're with smaller projects and indie films and stuff. Absolutely, they'll cast, you know, all the roles down here.
I don't think that taping restricts you to your marketplace. It's actually expanded one's horizons to be able to work lots of marketplaces simultaneously. Chelsea's absolutely correct to say that the larger context of the roles still come because of Q ratings and things like that in Los Angeles and New York. You got to get distribution. You've got to have marquee. Those folks are going to still come from there. Out of all the work that's coming to Georgia, curiously enough, the bulk of the big work, of course, the highest paying work goes to still people in the larger markets. When it's time for someone in a regional market to move on, I don't know that it tells the tale whether you can manipulate video or not. That just becomes a career choice when it's right for you, when you make a life choice. A lot of us have probably settled into the regions. I heard heard Ted say it a little bit earlier, for family reasons, and people make those choices. I've heard people matriculate to the regional markets because an elderly parent is ill and you want to be there for their last days. Whatever it happens to be, that's where, you know, the diaspora, if you will, of the actors has sort of happened globally. And we're now a global market again. We were a gypsy market before it sort of centralized itself. We've once again become a gypsy market.
I pray more so, more and more so. I am not going to leave Portland, and there's not enough work here. Please let there be more video auditioning.
And actually, I'd like to add in a little bit. I mean, there's a piece to that really resonates with me. I mean, I've had moments some years ago when my agent said to me, "You should think of moving to LA." And I started kind of doing the math on that, and it included stuff like what are the chances of me being seen doing local auditions, doing in-person auditions here in New Mexico. And for me, there's a it's advantageous that there is not a large percentage of African Americans in Albuquerque, because if they come to New Mexico and they want to do the tax incentives here, then there are, and I'm not kidding, there's about 5 people, African Americans, who are going to be on. I mean, there's maybe 5 or 6 guys that I would see. Maybe nobody with my look, but I mean, literally there's 5 guys in the room that are African American that are to choose from. The other piece of it is that it's the quality of life in New Mexico. Albuquerque is a wonderful place. And I think there was a question that I think is coming up at some place about it's something about being, and what do you miss about being in LA or New York? From my perspective, nothing. You know, I mean, there's the work there, but I love living in New Mexico. And so, just like you said, Ted, I want to stay here. I mean, I know people who live, they're big actors, name actors, and they come back to New Mexico because of a quality of life that they have here, and then they can still work. So if my fantasy came true and I started getting work in LA or in Louisiana, I would still live in New Mexico.
Great. Thank you for that. Let's. Can an actor still kind of reach their capacity in a local market where that's a potential thing that they have to address, where they book all the TV shows there, and there's maybe a film, like you said, Ted, every 4 months or so, and then how do you kind of function in that sphere? Maybe let's start with Ted, because I think it sounds like you have a little experience with that.
I am finished in Portland until a new TV show comes here or until the next movie comes to town. I'm done. I have nothing to do here, but I'm a part of a community here. The lifestyle here is why we moved here, and community was our battle cry. My teaching on camera acting has pulled me into the community way more than acting ever had. So I'm a very happy person. But I don't have any work.
I think they're glass ceilings you'll find in any market. There's only so much volume. But to really survive on a regional level, you've got to be flexible and you've got to be versatile. We have a robust theatrical scene here, stage. And Kenny Leon, for instance, just won the Tony Award for directing Raisin in the Sun. And he has a theater here called True Colors Theater. So please come and visit. We've got that, the Alliance Theater, and many, many other theaters. So you work that, you work voiceover, you work corporate, you work the stage, you work television and film, and hopefully you put it all together. I think what you have to do is we're all craftspeople, and we all love to work. And so at the end of the day, whether one becomes a star, if that becomes the elusive goal, it's not necessarily my direction. I don't really care one way or the other if I reach there. I just want to practice my craft. And the most work that I can get, I will exercise my options to do as much as I can wherever it is and however it is.
Great. Do you guys then, let's get to this idea, and I think this is a good transition to in-person auditions. Chelsea, you mentioned flying, driving to Hotlanta if you have a callback. One, obviously that sounds like it expands your potential for auditions outside of your specific local region, but start with Chelsea and then all the other actors. How far are you driving? What other places are you driving or flying for those callbacks? Where are you going outside of your specific market?
I'm willing to go anywhere and everywhere if it gets me work. Typically for New Orleans, I audition a lot in Baton Rouge, which is, an hour and a half away. Shreveport has studios up there too in northern Louisiana. That's a 5-hour drive away. In Houston and in Alabama has opened up a lot with their new tax incentives. I did a couple of films over the last few years in Mobile, Alabama, and one just recently up in Chehaw State Park, which is northern Alabama, and that was a 8-hour drive away. I think it's just outside of Atlanta. But with the regional hire thing, the SAG regional hire is quite big, and that's within 500 miles. So I will frequently drive anywhere up to 500 miles away. Florida is just outside of that, and the Carolinas are still in the southeast region, and I will, audition and read for that a lot, but then that's getting on an airplane to get there. I hate driving more than 10 hours, and then I'll just fly.
Well, that's the level of commitment that you have to have in a regional market. Like I say, in the Southeast, I live in Atlanta. I don't call myself an Atlanta actor. I'm a regional actor. So I have to play all 11 Southeastern states, all the way from Austin to Richmond, Virginia, and down to Miami, Florida. Luckily enough, because I still have residents in New York and California, I have a manager there, so I'm able to apply my craft whenever possible to those local markets. It's not that they need me there. There's certainly plenty of great, talented colleagues that work those cities. So they probably don't want me there, but nonetheless, everybody's welcome. It's sort of a wide open field now.
David, where are you seeing yourself travel?
Santa Fe is about as far as you end up going in New Mexico. So there's Albuquerque and Santa Fe. If anyone has been to New Mexico, it's pretty expansive. So if you're going to drive, the next closest market is going to be Colorado, Phoenix. Those are both 8-hour drives. And then Dallas is like off the radar pretty much at this point, although I've seen people from Dallas come to Albuquerque to do auditions and do work. And so, again, I'm not doing the video auditions at this point. So I basically keep my sphere of auditioning is in Albuquerque and in Santa Fe. And that's kept me pretty busy, actually.
Great. Ted, I'm going to actually loop in our audience question about the Pacific Northwest actors auditioning in Canada, as well as that conversation of where you're traveling, where our actors in Portland traveling to. So.
Like I said, when we first got here, I was more mobile, and I was glad to fly down to Los Angeles, and it's a 2-hour flight. It's no problem to do, and I could have kept a career going that way. A great way to live in a beautiful place like Portland and work in Los Angeles. But we stopped that. Seattle is 3 hours away, and Canada, Vancouver is 6 hours away. From what I understand, I don't know anybody that goes up to Vancouver for auditions, because I'm pretty sure that any local hires are residents in Canada. You can't just pop up there to steal some parts. And all the Americans that are hired, it sounds like 1 for every 2 Canadians are hired out of Los Angeles. So I would get it. I've auditioned actually by video and in person in Los Angeles for Vancouver work that I couldn't audition if I went there. Seattle, on the other hand, I have gone up there for a couple shots, and I ended up doing a movie out of Seattle. But with their new incentive laws this year, from what I understand, because I was up for a part just last month, that I was told not to come, actually, because the rule is that you have to have a Washington driver's license to audition in Seattle. That's not the case for Portland, so Seattle actors are welcome to come down here and audition, and we want them to for these shows, because we want to keep that quality of performers that are supposedly drawing people to Portland. We want to keep that available to the bigger markets.
Great, that's a great transition, Ted. There's a question from an audience member. Elizabeth Sung emailed in a question asking, what's the qualification in your local market to be considered a local actor? So Ted, you talked about the Seattle situation and Portland situation.
We don't have any rules like that. From what I understand, no one's carded, or if you show up for an audition here in Portland, and you want to be hired as a local, that means you have a place to stay, and they're not going to, take care of you. You can do that.
David, how about New Mexico?
New Mexico, you need to be a resident. The residency information that I'm familiar with is that you need to have lived in New Mexico for at least 6 months. Anytime I'm on the set, they're have me fill out a bunch of paperwork proving that I am a resident, that I've got an actual address, that I've got, a driver's license from New Mexico. So they're looking for all that stuff. So you need to be able to really prove something.
It's the same with Louisiana. You have to prove yourself in a fair bit of paperwork to qualify for the incentive. They also just changed the laws recently. It used to be one form of ID. Now it's 2 forms of ID. And this would be a Louisiana driver's license, a voter's registration card, your last year's tax income return. I can't remember the last one. But yeah, there's 2 forms of ID you need to prove as being a local resident down here.
Georgia doesn't have any residency requirements. When it was being put together, the Incentive Act, first in 2005, then upgraded in 2008, we knew that we didn't have the deep pool of talent, whether crew-based or professional actors, union actors, to be able to support any number of multiple films simultaneously. So we left that door open, and we're not going to readdress that anytime soon that I'm familiar with at the state level. Once again, there is an advantage to being a homegrown product here. Saying you're a local, actually being a local, there's no per diem. They have to deal with travel and housing. You will find that people from out of market will try to be local here to try to work that angle. But in many cases, people are brought in and they are paid. It's not a codified rule in the rule books at SAG-AFTRA now. And that is, we sort of call the plan, it's a modified local hire. They will pay per diem, travel, and housing, but you may be working for Scale Plus 10, but at least you're getting that. It's not coming out of your pocket. So definite advantages to actually living in the local market, but we're not restricted here.
Rick, this is kind of a question from Jay Potter kind of around this issue. Do you see, as the Atlanta actor pool is growing and more productions are there, do you see do you see still a greater amount of people coming in from outer markets, or do you feel like it's staying home to the local actors for roles?
No, I really see it growing to the outer markets. It's obviously it started as a local base. It's grown from that. I know our local pool of actors, union affiliated actors, was about 700, 800 just 5 years ago. We're now over 1,500. That'll probably top 2,000 in the not too distant future. A lot of those people are New York and Los Angeles actors relocating, people from other states relocating here. There's just a volume of work, and so you sort of follow, it's like following water in the old days. Where's the fresh water, not the salt water? Where do you survive? And so people seem to be attracted to this market for that reason. It's not going to change. We're not going to change it, but I do see the influx coming in, and you would be surprised how many are from Los Angeles and from New York, even if it's temporary residents. And we're fine with that. We know we don't have those people. And we like to say this to the other marketplaces. We would love to have you here. The reason being is we find it's a more dynamic market, the more choices that they have. I don't want to close it off. I'm part of the team that helped, put the vision together originally. And so we just don't want to cut off our noses to spite our face. We really love our brothers and sisters anywhere in the US of A, even the members who come from other countries. Please come, you're welcome.
Great, and we'll start this question off with Chelsea, and then anybody else who wants to chime in. Due to having to audition, traveling 3, 5, up to 8 hours, what are you and actors in your community, what's the day job situation look like? What day jobs are they getting that allows that flexibility to be able to pay rent and yet still get to that 8-hour audition driving?
Just as they would, as I imagine in Los Angeles or New York, a lot of people are bartenders or waitress or hospitality, in some respect. I also know a lot of people who are like personal trainers or massage therapists, jobs, with flexibility. I'm really fortunate that a few years ago I was able to just 100% make my income, as a SAG performer. and once you kind of get the residual pool going, that you can be sitting there going, how am I going to pay this bill? And then you check your letterbox and thank God there's a residual check. But yeah, it's just like in any other market of Los Angeles, whatever job gives you the flexibility if you need to have a job, to support your income while you're chasing your dream.
Did the other panelists in LA, since there's a lot of actors, people understand that that's a pursuit of a lot of people, maybe in a smaller market where it's not as common, do you still hear that people in non-acting communities are supportive of people who's trying to make that work?
You're asking if people understand here that kind of a schedule? Not so much, but Portland is a place where people move to live before they move to work. So there's a lot of, graduate people with graduate degrees working at coffee bars. So there's a lot of, educated, quote unquote, educated folk doing all kinds of alternative jobs. So actors do the same. I tell the actors that, ask me for advice that are going to LA to choose very carefully. Figure out that's a big part of your path is what job you take to get you there. For me, when I moved to New York and gave myself 2 years to make my living as an actor, I was a substitute teacher, and I thought that was a great one because I could always, on any given morning, just not go in or put off an audition until the afternoon. That's my little tip. Substitute teacher.
I've actually. Have not been the norm like that, I think. I've been very lucky. I have a regular day job, a regular 9 to 5, and I have been lucky enough that anytime my agent calls me, probably about 97% of the time, I'm able to make it up to an audition in Santa Fe or an audition here in Albuquerque. The Albuquerque studios are 15 minutes from my house. So that helps quite a bit. So when the auditions happen, one of the casting directors is 5 minutes from where I work. So I've been terribly lucky with this sort of stuff. So I've been able to keep a regular 9 to 5 job and haven't had to do, some other things where, some of the flexibility is required. And still I've been able to book work and have ended up being able to just say, listen, I'm going on vacation for a couple of days, or I'm going on vacation for a week, and then I'll just go do a movie or a TV, like a day player thing.
This industry has always been a hard one to chase financially. As everyone will probably attest on this panel, work is intermittent. You get streaks where you work all the time and you can pay your bills full time. Otherwise, you are trying to survive. I guess that's the old phrase, you pay your dues. Paying your dues was survival. How did you pay for yourself and your living in your future while you were waiting for the next job or applying yourself towards the next job? Any number of jobs, as Chelsea has said, certainly restaurants, it becomes a joke and a cliche to be a waiter, but it's one job where you can be fired tomorrow, and there are only 1,000 other restaurants that'll hire you later. Then eventually you'll find a restaurant that knows you're an actor and will allow you to go and work, and they find that somewhat prestigious. I don't know why, but they do. And at the end of the day, you find ways to make it work.
Great.
Back when I did used to waitress, I found that as a great training ground because I'd practice my American accent. So all of the people I had at my tables, and if they never picked it, they'd be like, "Oh, where are you from?" Yeah, so I used to enjoy putting on different faces with each table back in the day.
Well, and all your customers were trying to practice their Australian accent. They were playing that back right on you.
David mentioned this question, so we'll jump into it now. The idea of what do you love about living outside of LA or New York? I'm going to start with you, Rick. What is it about Atlanta or that area that makes you go, this is home for you and this is where you want to lay down your roots?
Well, it became home for me, like I said earlier. My wife was transferred here, and so as a matter of family, I came here. Raised my kids here. I'm now a proud grandfather with a child who's not 5 minutes from my home, which is an absolute joy. Quality of life, as the others has suggested, there's a different richness here to the culture that's different from my growing up in New York, and a different type of pace, certainly a different cost. I know compared to New York and Los Angeles, I can live in about a third to a half of what it would be in those larger cities. That's not a knock of the other cities. They're fabulous cities, but there is a high price of being there. So Georgia is an exception in that respect. I'm several hours from the Atlantic Ocean, several hours from the Gulf of Mexico. We got the North Georgia mountains. We can be up in the Appalachians or walking the Appalachian Trail within a matter of 2 hours. So it's kind of fun, kind of diverse. We still get 4 distinct seasons here. They're not severe except for probably the summer, and everything else becomes somewhat mild. So it's a nice intermediate choice.
Ted, what do you love about Portland?
What's not to love about the Northwest, except for the rain, as you all know. That's coming from Los Angeles. That's the one big. It's unbelievable, but it really is a factor. However, everything else here, the beauty, the space. I enjoy driving here. I take the side roads just so I can drive through the neighborhoods and have a slow pace of living. The creative community here. I enjoy my wife loving where she lives. Having 4 girlfriends that she sees every week, whereas in LA, you got to make appointments a couple months in advance to connect with your best friend, and it takes a 45-minute drive. So our lifestyle, our kids are happy, the space, the freedom, the just feeling of belonging too in a community.
Great. Chelsea, what about New Orleans in that area? What makes you want to make that your home?
I love New Orleans. New Orleans is my home. I've done a lot of travel in my lifetime, and it's one of those cities that has just so much heart and soul and culture, and everything from the music on Frenchmen Street to the food. Actually, before I moved down here, I really didn't know much about New Orleans at all, and I remember thinking, oh God, all I'm going to be able to eat is like deep fried chicken. But the food is just amazing, and the people I really understand that term, Southern hospitality. Now, you find it all across the South. The people are so amazing. And I catch myself sometimes sitting in traffic going, oh God, the traffic. And then I remember what it was like when I lived in Los Angeles, sitting on the 101 or the 405. Yeah, it's an amazing city. It's small. It really is a sense of community. Down here, everybody, the acting community is quite tight. The film, just the film crew community, everybody knows each other. You've worked with people on projects before. It really is kind of a one big, family type environment.
Great. And David, about New Mexico, what is it about there that makes it your home?
It's the fact that it's the landscape. It's green. New Mexico. Like I said, it's one big just open space, and the fact that if you start, for instance, in the middle of Albuquerque, and you drive 15 minutes in any direction, if you want to, you can be in the middle of nowhere. It's the fact that Albuquerque has about, I think the metro area has about 700,000 people. The entire state of New Mexico is, I think, maybe 1.5 million people. And this is a state that's it's pretty close to the size of Arizona, Texas. Definitely not Texas, but Arizona for sure. And it's the culture. The culture is so diverse and old. You have a really vibrant Native American culture here in New Mexico. Hispanic culture here is pretty amazing. And there's so many other things I could say about it, but you have all this stuff that is, when you come to New Mexico, you have a feeling that you're still in the United States, but you're kind of not sometimes, because it has just a different feel to it. If you've ever been through here, you know what I'm talking about. Driving to an audition from Albuquerque going to Santa Fe, like I said, it's about an hour north to get up to Santa Fe. And most of that drive is driving through countryside, and it's just these beautiful vistas that you see all the time. And as growing up as a kid from inner city Detroit, to be able to drive an hour and then be in the middle of nowhere, it's just a whole different thing. I feel like I'm a kid in the candy store, like every time I drive around the state. It's amazing.
Great.
Rick, you seem like what I'm I'm talking about.
I do. I think it's great. And I love all the cities that my colleagues are from. I've been in each one of them. They're all spectacular in their own individual way. And I look forward to the next time I can visit and see you guys.
Now, if those great examples convinced me as an LA or New York actor to move to your region, and before I would move there, if I had a conversation with you one-on-one, what would be the challenges or things I would need to know as an actor before you would recommend me moving to your region? Let's start with Chelsea. What would things I need to know as an actor, challenges, things like that?
I see it all too often. I mean, people really need to do their research, before they come and choose a place where you have connections, or, you can pay the path for yourself. I see it all too often that people decide to move here because they're like, oh, there's, Jurassic Park and Fantastic Four and Terminator. It's all filming in New Orleans at the moment. Great, I'm going to move there and suddenly get to work on all these fantastic projects. I wouldn't move to Los Angeles and expect to make it within 6 months. I feel like a lot of the time I see people come down here and they give it 6 months and then they leave because they're like, I didn't get the auditions I wanted, or whatever it is. You really need to commit to living here and becoming part of the community and, becoming a proper citizen within the town. Just coming down for a few months to test it out and see how it goes doesn't really work. You need to give it a good few years of, really making your roots in the community and meeting people and, letting the locals know that you're here to stay and you're a part of the community, and not just here to take some work and then leave to the next market.
Great.
Anyone else?
Ted, it looked like you were about to say something. Thoughts?
Just if you're moving to Portland, you want to move here to live here. That's why you're moving here. It's Portland. I tell my actors that I advise that are disheartened, you're living in Portland. This is Portland, which is a great thing, but it's also a small, tiny market. You do a couple TV shows and that's it. So just be realistic about it. It's a great place to live, but as far as work goes, it's a very small pond.
I think if you move to any of the smaller markets, you have to understand that the starring roles are not going to be here. It is a different lifestyle choice. You're probably going to settle for a little bit less as far as grandeur, but by the same token, you are, as Chelsea said, you're moving into a community to be part of that community and find yourself in your soul and invest yourself in your soul in that local community. I think, you pick your places in life based upon what direction you need to go internally. If part of your path means going to these regional markets and working out your craft, then go do that. Do it for a while. Maybe you're there for your whole life. Maybe you're there for a few years. I think Chelsea's right. It's no different from somebody saying, I'm going to come to Los Angeles or New York. I'm going to spend a month and see how it goes. And I laugh every time, and certainly anyone in Los Angeles will laugh. You're going to be here for a month and see how it goes. This is a 5, 10, 20-year commitment. I always tell people, when you go, commit to the area, and then vest yourself in that area so that you'll begin to like it. Once you love your environment, you take a lot of the pressure off of yourself. Georgia certainly has a lot to offer right now, no question about it. Atlanta specifically, it's easy to get to. There's a ton of work. Yes, we're riding the coattails of an incentive. And by the way, I hope my friends in California get your incentive passed. I really do. It needs to be upgraded. It's long overdue. New York jumped in a little bit more quickly. New Orleans and New Mexico were first in the pond back in 2002. And so everybody, I want to see everybody work wherever you go. When you make a choice regionally, understand that's where you're going. Don't come to Georgia if you think you're going to be a star. Probably the same in the other markets.
And you know what, I would just echo the same thing that everyone else said. You're coming to New Mexico for the quality of life. I think also that if you, like Chelsea mentioned, I think you basically said, Chelsea, that you had a career when you were in Australia and you thought, you went to Los Angeles hoping to make that leap, and then found out that going to Louisiana, going to New Orleans, you ended up doing better there than you would have in Los Angeles. I would echo that probably about somebody coming to New Mexico. There's a possibility. I know people who have moved from from some other markets, some big markets, come to New Mexico and have seen their chances to get seen and show up and do parts in movies and TV shows increase because it is such a small market. Again, for me, I think that it's been to my advantage to be in New Mexico. Because the market is so small, I get a chance to be in front of a casting director probably more often than if I were in LA or New York. And because of that, I've had the experiences that I've had. I did the time on Breaking Bad. I've done a bunch of stuff that now I almost feel like if I wanted to, I could probably go to some of these other markets and I might have a better chance of being seen. I'm not going to say that that's necessarily true because I haven't tested the waters at this point. But, to get back to people coming here, again, it's the quality of life. It really is. You've got to commit to the area. You've got to feel like you're here first for that. And if you have the chops and if you feel like you can really make a go of it, then that's almost secondary.
Great. We have a question here from Christopher Gooley, who's in Florida, and it sounds like maybe he potentially is in even a smaller market than some of you that are on our panel. And his struggle is just trying to get that first speaking role in whatever projects become available. When working with younger actors or just actors who are first looking to start out in the local markets, what are your recommendations for them to get training or get that first thing on their resume, it being a speaking role? What are some of your thoughts around that? Let's start with Rick.
By all means, invest in your craft and yourself. You got to work, you got to learn, you got to be around other people that know the business so that you can learn from them. I know Florida, obviously adjacent to Georgia, and it has its competitive challenges right now. I believe Florida just lost some of its incentive funding, but that doesn't mean you can't work there. Whether it's through commercials, working on the stage, taking classes, by all means take classes. I think everybody here will tell you the learning process never stops. For the young people, it has to start. Actors act. Writers must write. I hear people give lip service all the time to, this is what I'm going to do. Show us. And I think everybody here would agree. Show us. Do the work.
I will just add to that. It's one of the challenges of living in a regional market as well is, there's so many classes available to you in places like Los Angeles and New York. There certainly is, acting classes and whatnot available, to you in Louisiana, as I'm sure there is in others. They're just not as many and as fruitful as there are in other markets. So there is a point where you might have to travel to go do a summer intensive course or a weekend course if you can elsewhere to get some of that training under your belt, because or often acting coaches will come and do weekend workshops here. But yeah, definitely going to some classes or some workshops, or often they have like networking events. Meeting some filmmakers who are, doing short films or something like that for this guy in Florida, and starting to do the work on, local short films starting to get a reel under his belt would be beneficial.
And SAG has some really marvelous contracts to help out those beginners. There's the student film waiver. You can work the ultra low budgets. There are a lot of young independent filmmakers out there, thanks to new media and the reduction of cost in actually getting, 2K, 4K cameras, getting high-end HD editing capabilities and storage systems. You can essentially become a filmmaker for under $25,000 now. And so seek out those people, get the work, get on camera, do the work, and you get better in time. There's a competitive imbalance I'd probably like to describe when it comes to the regions. You have to use perspective. Going to Los Angeles and New York, if you don't have a lot of experience, is probably going to be a death knell. There are at least 70,000 SAG-AFTRA actors in LA, 25, 30,000 in New York. And then you start to look at the regions where you're competing against 500, 1,000, 1,500, whatever it is. That is an advantage when you're starting out in the game. It may not be the high end, but you're going to have more opportunities to work more than likely in those markets.
I'd echo Rick as far as it being this is a long-term prospect. If you want to be an actor, the learning never stops. You're in it for the long haul. So do the work. That's your goal. That should be your heart's desire. Do the work that you know to do. If you don't quite know how to do it, go find out. Take classes, study. It's all about making this what you do. So when you do have that opportunity and you walk in the room and you're auditioning for that under 5, which is mostly an information provider for the story, it isn't your big moment. It's just another moment. For that character, it's a moment of providing information. That's what it should be for you. But if you're not doing the work all along, it's going to become a mountaintop experience, and you're going to freak out and perform all over the place and not book that job. The person that walks in the room taking a puff on that I don't give a rip cigarette and just saying it's over there, the bathroom, is the one who books it, right? So it's about doing the work and making that something normal for you.
I just want to echo something that Rick had said about, in your market. If I had stayed in Los Angeles, I'm one of God knows how many Australian actors who are trying to make it work in Los Angeles. I am the only Australian down here in my, definitely my local market and probably certainly my regional market. So it's safe to say I book all of those roles. And there has been a few of them where they've wanted an accent. And I'm the only one with an accent, the Australian accent.
David, how about yourself? What's your recommendations?
You know what? I really can't add anything to what these guys said. One thing that I would encourage people to do, and something that I'd like to pursue more, is stage is always I think a good place to get your muscles working and stuff, and to try to be better at the craft in general. It's a different sort of thing, but there's enough to it that, especially if you're just getting started, learn the craft, do the work, as these guys said. I know that my agent, I've recommended people to my agent who have never done any on-camera work that were stage actors, and she's at the point that she can be very, very choosy about who she picks up. She picks them up because they have stage experience, and they start getting working on film and TV. They get auditions that way. So I think that helps too.
I think this is a great transition into talking about creating your own content. Ted, you mentioned that the community is so creative in Portland. Are you seeing a lot of actors starting to create their own content? Are there organizations that are there that people can get connected with fellow actors and to create your own content?
Yeah, I'm sure Rick could articulate this zeitgeist that's now a reality, that we have the ability to create quality content on our own. The material is there. And in Portland, the people are there too. There are plenty of production side creative people that have moved up here from Los Angeles, and equipment is cheap, and it's all possible. It just takes desire, and there's a lot of desire in Portland. So there's a lot of grassroots stuff happening. There's a couple examples of shows that have drawn national interest, or the Harvey Weinstein company just bought up something called the Sunshine Girl, which was a local gal with a lot of charisma who was taking her camera around ghost busting, basically. So a semi-realism kind of very low budget kind of thing that took off because of her and her mother's creative, push. But yeah, I think the potential here, and so I'm trying to get behind creating Portland. Me and a few others are trying to create more of a creative hub for that to happen, for us to know each other, know who we are, pull each other together, and start creating. There's some screenwriters up here. There's that are from Hollywood. There's a lot of folks that have kind of moved out of Hollywood for the quality of life up here. We can create a hub of creativity of our own up here. So that's, sorry I rambled there, but I'm done.
Not a problem.
Any of our other panelists, is there organizations?
See, Rick, please jump in, Rick.
Oh, yes. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was part of a team of people actually in the middle 90s who started a group called the Atlanta Production Partnership. It grew to become the Georgia Production Partnership, which is a not-for-profit group of producers, actors, crew people, etc. And this was the group that actually created the grassroots movement towards our incentives to begin with. We sort of realized everything was sort of traveling north of the border, oddly enough, to Australia and New Zealand and former Eastern Bloc, and we chose to do something about it. But we meet once a month. We've got some 3,000 members now, and we are always having an open table of discussions and guests to say where's the next horizon. And we're constantly discussing new technologies. Our new media contract for SAG is a great way to utilize a lot of what's developing. The kids probably know about it a lot more than we do. And so I think independence, new media, that's kind of the next phase of our generation.
Chelsea, what's going on in New Orleans?
I pretty much think every state or territory would have their own local, board. I don't know what it, I know there's one in New Orleans, the name escapes me at the moment, but then there's other great organizations like Women in Film and Television. They are, I know they've got their local branch here in New Orleans. And then there's like the fun projects like the 48-Hour Film Festival. I've, been involved with a number of those, and it's coming up again here in New Orleans. And I know all the actors always get their teams together, and, they're a great way. There's the Louisiana Film Prize, which is held up in Shreveport, and they have a $50,000 prize for the winning film. It needs to be shot in Shreveport, but I know a lot of my actor colleagues and friends have made films for that. And yeah, it seems like constantly whenever I'm on Facebook or whatever, there's always a new little short film that one of my friends or colleagues have made, and they're fabulous. They can shoot them on GoPros or they're Canons nowadays, and they look great. You can definitely shoot a lot of content now, if for practice than anything else. Yeah.
Is there any organizations, David, in Santa Fe or New Mexico, around your Albuquerque?
Yeah, there's several things. I mean, we've got film festivals going on, pretty much the same thing that Chelsea was just talking about. We've got some film festivals. There's a Taos Film Festival. There's a lot of stuff that's going on like that. We have a 48-hour film festival ourselves, and Women in Film, Women in Communication. So it's a similar sort of thing. And so there are a lot of things. I'm not as connected with that sort of stuff on a regular basis, but if you look it up, you'll find some incredible stuff going on in New Mexico.
Ted, I think you need to introduce our fifth member of the panel who just joined
That's
you.
right. Yeah, take a look over there. Not me. Go look over there.
You. Okay. Oh yeah, this is our boarder who lives in the basement. We let him out every once in a while. He's he's the reason I'm here.
Oh, what's his name?
Abe Stir. Say hi, Abe.
Hi. Hi.
A lot of charisma there.
Nice.
Hopefully.
I'm sure you learned it from Dad.
I think that David hit on something there, Dennis. The film festivals. I think each one of these cities that are represented here tonight have their own film festivals. They're very active for training, for classes, for exhibiting films, of course, of any genre. So I would look into those markets too. If you don't think you have something locally in Florida or North Carolina, seek those people out. They exist.
Great. There's one topic I wanted to make sure we hit before our time's up tonight. Let's talk a little bit about agents, because in a local market, you might have multiple agents in various markets, some in LA. I know, Rick, you have one in Orlando. Can you talk a little bit about that conversation of how you work with your agents in multiple locations, and what's the conversations behind it, who covers what, and who takes care of what, and what they say, like you said, Ted, about LA saying, well, since you're in Portland, that's a little iffy, but yet you got work, so that should probably have piqued their interest. So let's start with Ted. Thoughts around agents and managing multiple agents.
Yeah, so Portland, you would have your own agent for Portland and the Portland and the Northwest, and you would definitely have your own agent for Los Angeles. So other than that, my agent would love to have me fly down to Los Angeles and audition, but tape submissions, at least from my experience, are difficult. So we're not working much together. He's been vying for big projects for me, and I've heard whispers of potential something possible, not just reoccurring, but actual, series regular. But so that's what he's doing. He's lobbying for the big stuff for me that I would fly down for. But until then, just we're stuck with video submission. And I have my local agent, which Portland has become a much tighter market. A lot of actors have come here because of the influx of TV work that has come here. So you can't just take an agent out to coffee and get them. So you're going to have to do a little more homework and hopefully get some tape on yourself before you get an agent here.
I'm happy to answer if you want me to throw in.
Absolutely, Rick.
I found regionally, territories are just that. They're territorial. And everything is predicated upon relationships. It's no different than any other business in the world. If, for instance, you've got an agent in New Orleans, like Chelsea does, you want that agent in New Orleans because of their relationships in that state and the adjoining states. Similarly, if you're looking in Florida, Florida is sort of, it's an isthmus all to itself there, and they like to hire locally, and so you have to have those relationships there. I used to have an agent in North Carolina. I've got one still in Texas. The Dallas, Austin, Houston markets are particular to themselves, and so once again, they know their local casting directors. If that's what it takes to get in, you may find that, for instance, in Atlanta, we've got a lot of great agents here that represent multiple states because they have the relationships with those casting directors. If you can't penetrate a state, it's because your agent is not getting to those casting directors. So the idea of having multiples, yeah, I wish you could have one that could do all things. That's just not the nature of the business right now, particularly in the regions. Do others feel the same way? Does that seem to be the trend where you are?
I'd agree with that. I've got my one agent. That's all I have at this point, because I haven't, as I said, I don't work outside of New Mexico at this point. But she does a really wonderful job. She has great relationships with the casting directors, and so that makes a huge difference locally. So,
Chelsea, you have any direct experience in New Orleans?
No, I'm really lucky that my agent pretty much takes care of me across the entire Southeast. So I've had no reason to get another agent in a particular market, because I feel like I'm pretty well taken care of across most of the markets that I'm interested in at the moment.
Good. Time is almost up, so I want to end. We'd like to end with each panelist kind of maybe a nugget of wisdom that you can pass on to local actors in your area and beyond, maybe to encourage them, and also maybe a nugget of wisdom for the LA or New York actor who's considering maybe a local market. What's a reminder or a piece of information you can leave them with? We'll start with David.
I'll just go back to what we talked about a little bit earlier, which was please come out to New Mexico. Rick was saying that people are welcome in Georgia, and I would say the same about New Mexico. There's it's a wonderful quality of life here. It is a beautiful place to visit. The actors market is, I think, doing really, really well. The crew that is in New Mexico is top notch. Amazing folks that work on the crews here. One of the things that I would probably encourage you to do is, again, do your homework before you come here. Find out about New Mexico. I would probably get in touch with some of the agents before you move out, or maybe take a trip out and try to see if you can set up a meeting with one of the agents as you come out here. Take a look at the state itself so you kind of get an idea of how the state is, meet the people. But yeah, come on out.
Ted?
Portland is a great place for a safe place to train and get better. Definitely there's tons of indie and lower and mid-level and projects going on all the time. So there's lots of opportunities to act. As far as, higher level SAG work, not as much. However, we're on the verge of building a studio out here. We're growing, the incentive is growing. We see Portland becoming the next Los Angeles. Everyone's laughing at me, so I must be, it's him back there. Yeah. So come to Portland to improve your craft. It's all about the work, right? It's a great place to do good work. It's a long-term prospect. You'll end up in LA eventually, but here is a great place, and this is going to be the next LA. So Portland in 2020, man, come on out. Let's build it now.
Nice, Ted. I hope you're helping to keep Portland weird.
My bad.
Nice. Chelsea, any last-minute thoughts about New Orleans, people who are there and people who are looking to move there, actors?
Echoing what has been said already, definitely do a recce trip down and spend a few weeks in whichever city you're thinking of moving to first, to set up some meetings and meet some of the locals and get a real feel for whether this city is somewhere where you're excited to live and you enjoy living in that city. I certainly think that these regional markets are a wonderful place for people to build their resumes and get opportunities that they may not necessarily even get their foot in the door for normally in Los Angeles or New York, and really build their reels. Working in some scenes with some big actors who come into town, but they're always booking the day players in the regional market where you've got a lot less competition.
Take us home, Rick.
We live in a time of opportunity. Technology has sort of changed the landscape of everything that we do. Where we used to have to live in one or two places to make a full-time living, that's no longer the case. That may be an unsettling trend for some, but you want to know what? I hope Portland thrives. I hope that certainly New Mexico, Albuquerque, and New Orleans thrive, and all the other markets, because these are areas of opportunity. There are a million ways to get to your goal. Everybody's going to have their own goal. There are no set ways anymore of how you get there. So develop your own path, find the place that is a good place, a safe place, but also a place that gives you opportunity. It used to be two places, now it's many places, and I wish everyone the best of luck.
Thank you. I think that's a great place to end. I want to thank each individual panelist for joining us. You have been giving us great insight into your guys' process. Thank you for everyone watching. I want to give a special shout out to Casey and Marcus, our technical staff, for helping us with our first ever live stream only event. We're excited to do this. We're excited to do this for all our local members because we are a national organization and we want to support everyone nationally, as you guys obviously have been sharing. So thank you everyone. Thank you for watching. Again, go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/SAG Foundation. You'll be able to find this event and many events that we record and archive there, free for everyone to watch and to learn the process. So thank you again, and thanks for viewing, and have a great night.